Hello everybody, my name is Pravus and welcome to more Plague Inc. Evolved Custom Scenarios. Today we are taking requests. Specifically, there it is, Frostbite Fungus. I have seen this popping up several times in the comments section because either it's really good or people just want to see whatever is the most popular at the time. And I'll be honest, I actually confused this several times when I read it with the official scenario called the Frozen Virus, which looks exactly the same and presumably has a sort of similar background. I don't know, but either way, we're going to go for the Frostbite Fungus because apparently that's what you guys really meant, so I apologize for not understanding. And let's take a look at what we got. A curious new parasitic fungus has arisen, one that feeds off body heat. So much so that it can leave victims completely frozen. Will it bring about a new and devastating ice age, or will it only leave humanity with a new meaning for the common cold? Huh. This is your very first and only submission. This is your first submission of the Steam Workshop. Okay, well, I mean, so far your grammar looks fantastic. I'm shocked. You don't see this very often. I feel like I'm not going to have a lot to criticize today, and that's always a good day for me. Let's give it a shot and see what we can do. Yes, it is, in fact, a fungus type. That makes sense. We have Metabolic Jump, Genetic Mimic, Aquasite Extremophile, and the Symptostasis. We could always switch the Symptostasis to something else like the Pathostasis, which often works pretty well with the fungus because of the spore bursts, but you know what, I'm going to stick with the Symptostasis and see what we can get. Aquasite Extremophile, everything else looks pretty decent. Play on a normal difficulty, and I'm just going to call it Frostbite, if I can spell it correctly. There we go. You are a fungus that thrives on body heat, absorbing that heat to grow and spread. Absorbing heat means that you leave things you infect without it, meaning heat. This means you have a natural resistance to the cold. So if I start in a country that's hot and get kind of an innate heat resistance, are you saying I also will have cold resistance and I've just saved myself 2 abilities? That might be what you're saying. But, you know what? Just for the sake of the theme, I'm not going to start off in Saudi Arabia as I usually would. Let's start in Russia. It's pretty rare that we start off in Russia. It could be kind of fun, right? I mean, yeah, we've really stacked a ton of cold resistance and it's not that useful, but meh, it'll be alright. Frostbite is a fungus and they have a hard time traveling large distances, so you must evolve the fungal spore abilities to infect new countries. And let's take a look at the symptoms and so on and see if those actually exist. Transmission, we start off with spores. The primary transmission vector for fungi. Weak and vulnerable at first, spores linger in the air, potentially infecting humans on contact. We have the zoonotic shift, allowing us to have different species. Also gives mutation chance, which can be good or bad, depends. Let's just go ahead and grab it right now. I mean, why not? Okay, that opens up livestock, rodent, and bird. Those look all pretty standard, and they have some mutation chance. Air 1 unlocks respiratory symptom tree? We'll find out more about that in a second. Fomites and water. Okay, some pretty standard stuff, though in a different order, so there was some customization there. Symptoms. Nothing. Okay, so presumably you need to get some transmission first. Digestive symptom tree, skin contact symptom tree. But these don't have any, do they? No, it doesn't say that they do. Okay, so these 3 presumably will open up more symptoms for us. We're probably going to want to get all 3 at some point for sure. Alright, abilities. We start off with 2 levels of cold resistance. Okay, so starting in a hot country actually would have been pretty smart, but we're going for a themed playthrough. It's fine. Heat and drug resistance, and there's our spore burst. It infects a random country. Now, if we had the pathostasis, we could pop these all right now, and we'll get our DNA right back from the red bubbles, and it kind of gives us a heads up. Kind of speeds the whole scenario up quite a bit. That said, it's also a really good backup plan in the event that you do not get into some islands that you need to. So I'm actually going to hold on to these right now and focus instead on more transmission and maybe some symptoms and stuff like that. Now we're starting off in Russia, which is considered rural, cold, and humid. So water transmission would probably make the most sense. Livestock transmission would not be that bad either. So let's go ahead and start with the water. Now that unlocks the digestive symptom tree. So what does that mean? We start off with nausea. Okay, so presumably there are 3 different starting points to the tree. And I'm going to guess a third of them are all locked behind these different transmission options. Water 2 does not say that it gives even more symptom options. So I'm thinking that 1 level of each might be enough. But we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and grab another level of water because that's actually a pretty good amount of infectivity, and it will help us get started in Russia. quite a bit earlier. Now, one of the downsides as the fungus, right, as it kind of alluded to, is that they have a much harder time spreading across the borders into other nations. Far harder than any other disease type, so that's one problem we're definitely going to run into. The faster we are able to reach critical mass in Russia, the more likely that we'll get in across some land transmission and water transmission, but that's certainly no guarantee. Let's go ahead and grab air level 1. Now that said it unlocked something else. Respiratory symptom. Coughing. Okay, good in the urban areas. I actually think that's kind of clever, because what it's doing is it's forcing you to get some level of transmission, and then that transmission becomes more lethal, or at least more symptomatic as time goes on. So, fomites, skin contact, you know, you get spores in your skin and they spread around, but eventually those spores actually become irritating to the skin and cause some problems, at least presumably. We'll find out more as we unlock that, but that's pretty cool. I actually like that. I do. I think that's pretty clever. Alright, we managed to get into Korea, surprisingly before Japan. And we're in Norway and we're in Germany. Festival of Love in Germany. That means we should go for the nausea, because that increases the chance of spreading when kissing. So, cool. Vomiting. Material expelled can hold spores, further increasing rates. So there is actually some level of customization in all of these. At least some of them. Maybe not all, but a few. That's not bad. We should probably go for a level of fomites next. Just sort of see what our options are. Coughing mutated. Coughing's not bad, especially in urban areas. Now, of course, this means we're far more likely to get detected sooner. But, you know, there's only so much you can do against that. Notice, by the way, how slowly we are getting DNA right now. And a big part of that is because we're not getting into neighboring countries very rapidly. And we're not, because we don't have a lot of populations to infect, you know, we just don't get a passive DNA. Let's grab fomites. That unlocks something. Rash. Skin becomes irritated. So yeah, literally, as I was saying, the spores spread on your skin, but then they become more irritating. That's pretty cool. I like it. I do. I do like that. We're gonna grab a level of bird transmission next. I'm okay with the mutation chance for now, but I really would like to increase the odds that we are able to get some level of land transmission. If we are not careful, we're not going to be able to get into pretty much any of the islands, and then we're going to have a real problem. Protesters claim the mystery plague is real, because they tried to detect us because they're finding some symptoms, but they didn't actually find us. So doctors aren't finding any evidence, but we definitely exist. Pretty soon they're going to find us. That's just inevitable. Bird 1 is only 13 points, so let's save up a little bit more. There we go. That should be it. No, not quite. Darn it. 1 point each. Hey, we're getting into Greenland. Usually I'd be ecstatic, but, you know, because we started in Russia, it doesn't actually matter all that much. Kind of sad. Goldman Stanley Bake Crisis. That's not part of this scenario. Why did I read that? It doesn't matter. Maybe we should get some kinds of symptoms. Might have some be worth it. Riots in Russia over the mystery plague. The government promises to fund an in-depth medical investigation. So yeah, they will find us very soon. Sneezing, greatly oh my gosh, that's actually a really good amount of infectivity. Grab. Pharyngitis, also pretty decent. Vomiting, not bad. Rash, let's grab rash. That leads to cysts and skin lesions. Very infective. Also pretty severe though, far more likely to find us. They haven't detected us, but Korea is now working on a cure apparently. And we just got pharyngitis for free, that's not so bad. We probably need to develop some level of resistance. I'm thinking heat resistance specifically, because we're going to have a really hard time spreading. And yes, they did in fact find us, and they named us Frostbite. Frostbite Awareness Day. No one was aware of it a week ago, but now everyone's talking about it. It's the latest fad. Let's get a level of drug resistance. Spread a little bit faster in Europe. Okay, so they're working on that cure a little bit faster than I'm comfortable with, but only so much I can do. More heat resistance, make it a little faster for us to get through Africa. I'm really worried that we haven't gotten into South America and stuff yet. That makes me very nervous. But there's only so much I can do. Let's grab air transmission so we spread faster in the arid areas. Hopefully we get on some planes a little bit sooner, please. Now, I would be a little less stingy about these spore bursts, right? Except the normal fungus plague type has 2 rings of spore bursts, so you have presumably more than we have here. I mean, I don't see a second one, but usually that exists. Pneumonia, pretty good in cold climates. That's very severe. Vomiting, skin lesions, fomites, level 2. It's pretty effective in the urban and the rich areas. I am really worried that we have not gotten into North and South America, really. Surely we should have gotten a plane over there by now. And the more severity we get, the more likely they're going to close down some borders, and we might be in trouble. Could be in a lot of trouble, in fact. Okay, getting around in Africa, I mean, that's something. Pulmonary fibrosis. I'm actually going to devolve that, because lethality might end up coming back to bite me. Do we want cysts? Yeah, that's alright. Diarrhea? Diarrhea's okay. I'm looking for as little severity as possible right about now. We're going to go for the environmental hardening, make it a lot easier to get into these hot places. Because, by God, it's not going well. There we go, finally! Got into Mexico. Okay, the USA closed down their borders. How dare you? Donald Trump must have taken office. Bird 2. Do you want to go for rodents? No, I'm going to go for livestock because I suspect that most of Africa is rural and we're having a hard time spreading there. I mean, push come to shove, we will be able to do some spore bursts, just will we be able to do it in a reasonable time frame? Okay, we are getting around to some islands. That's good at least. Missing the Caribbean, Madagascar, New Zealand, Japan? Really? We still have a port, but no one's getting in there yet. Dysentery just mutated. So we're getting some lethality. I'm not sure we want that, to be honest. At least not yet. Let's refund that. I'm going to grab pneumonia. I'm going to grab gastroenteritis. We're maxed out on infectivity at this point. And a level of drug resistance to really try and speed things up. Global research focused on a cure. We really have to go for some lethality now. I don't think I have much choice. We actually got into the USA despite the closed borders. That's pretty good. Caribbean, Morocco, West Africa. You know what? This is probably enough that the spore bursts will get us the rest of the way. So let's go ahead and grab Spore Burst 1. Actually, we don't want to do more than one at a time. If you guys are not familiar with the fungus, this is kind of a bug that I don't think they've ever fixed. But when we pick up a level of the Spore Burst, it infects a random country. And we can pick up as many right now before we close down this menu as we want. But there is a chance that by picking up more than one, at least 2 or 3 will roll the same country, and despite getting 3 Spore Bursts, you'll only infect 1 country, which is kind of a waste. So you always want to pop that, leave the menu, click the bubble, and then rinse and repeat. It's kind of tedious, but what are you going to do? Got into Japan, good, that's 1 less island to worry about. Got a New Zealand, good, 1 less island to worry about. Another Spore Burst. Caribbean, excellent. So we're missing Morocco, Algeria, Madagascar. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay, we got into Algeria. Spore eruption, several countries. So this should finish us off. Okay, yes it does. Good. We need to get as much lethality as possible right now because we are going to die. We did evolve Frostbite. Fungal heat absorption leaves outer tissues frozen, particularly in the extremities, fingers and toes. Harder to cure due to lack of dexterity and mobility. Yeah, harder to cure is pretty good for us. You know, it could just be that you have terrible blood circulation. You know, that happens if you're feeling really cold in your extremities. And Yali knows a lot about that, my wife. The woman has absolutely atrocious circulation. Ugh, it's really sad, actually. Dysentery, systematic infection. Oh, hang on. This unlocks bone chill. Fungal heat absorption leaves infected feeling perpetually cold and driven to find warmth at any kind. Harder to cure, but a decrease in infectivity. Fine by me, pick that up. Hypothermia. Fungal heat absorption causes drop in core body temperature, loss of muscle coordination, and confusion. Walking is almost impossible, harder to cure, possibly fatal, perfect. And then we have statuesque. The fungus eventually absorbs the heat from every area of the body. Body functions cease, all tissues freeze solid. The infected becomes merely a statue of ice. Very lethal. 22 points. Can probably afford that. Pulmonary fibrosis would help a little bit, but let's go for statuesque. And hopefully we don't kill too fast, but I think we'll be okay. I'm a little worried about the cure, but as we start getting some more lethality, maybe we'll be okay. Maybe. Can we please get up to 22 points? There we go. All right, statuesque. Start killing a lot faster. Get me some DNA. There are no healthy people left in the world. I wanted to have lethality a little bit higher before we got to this point, but there's only so much we could do. All right, now we're killing pretty quick. We're killing pretty quick. We're going to win this scenario and turn everybody into giant ice cubes. That's kind of funny, actually. Yeah, I think we got a little unlucky in that scenario, but I mean, the fungus is always a little on the tricky side. It always requires a little bit of RNG as far as getting into other nations and then the spore bursts working in your favor. We're going to go ahead and grab a level of genetic reshuffle and stuff like that. We're just trying to slow things down, buy as much score as possible, try to redeem ourselves slightly. Ukraine is an anarchy, generating a good amount of DNA now. We could have started up with the lethality a lot sooner. Now that I realize that I was going to have to rely on these spore bursts to get into those countries, yeah, if there's anything I could have done better there, I could have started the lethality a lot faster than I did, and that would have been smart. Oops, symptom combo from diarrhea and sneezing. It's always very unfortunate for those poor people. They fully sequenced us. Okay, well that's gonna increase their cure progress a fair bit. What does this do, by the way? Anything special? Spore hardening. Hardens fungal spores to survive in the air indefinitely. Major bonus to land, air, sea, and corpse transmission, but takes time to reach full effectiveness. Really good as far as getting into nations that have already closed down their borders. Sometimes still not very helpful with islands. I've had times when I play the fungus, and even with something like this, it doesn't get you into islands like New Zealand very easily. We're going to grab some genetic hardening, just kind of slow things down a little bit. But otherwise, yeah, that's a pretty cool scenario. I have to say, I don't think I saw any glaring grammatical or spelling errors. That's really rare. Someone used their spell check. I'm pleased with that. That's all I wanted, really. That's all I ever ask for. Frostbite is to eradicate humanity. It's a pretty cool scenario. I do think it took a little while for the theme of the scenario to kind of kick in, namely the frostbite stuff. Ultimately, there are only 4 symptoms that I would say are relevant to this particular theme of turning people into ice, and it's pretty effective and it does the job, but I mean, there's just kind of a lot of other stuff here, and it's very well put together, don't get me wrong. I kind of like the way this symptom tree is put together. I think it's a reasonable amount of lethality, but I don't know. I guess I would have liked to see a little bit more about the frostbite side of things, but otherwise it's a very well-balanced scenario. I'm actually quite impressed. Not half bad. Nothing ridiculously unique, but as far as just like a basic scenario that relies on the basic mechanics of the game and doesn't like, you know, completely change the mechanics on you, that's pretty solid. Frozen solid, in fact. Ha 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 ha. Alright, 710 days and 1 star. Yeah, I kind of expected that. Again, I could have gone for the lethality a little bit sooner, and I really should have, just so I could start getting some more DNA, and I would have had to rely on the Spore Burst to get me the rest of the way. I wasn't sure if by the time we got around to the end of the Spore Bursts, we would get multiple countries infected. So probably if I had like 12 countries left, I probably could have started on that, and it would have been fine. I just wasn't sure, so I played the conservative route. But now that you know, you can probably try the scenario on your own, and you will be just fine and dandy. Yeah, I don't know. I like this scenario. It's good. For a first try, that was like shockingly solid. I've seen some people try their first try, and that's usually a little bit scatterbrained, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and there are plenty of grammar errors, or it's unbalanced, but this one felt balanced. Someone clearly did their effort to make sure that there was a good amount of customization with good spelling and so on and so forth, and it was a pretty good theme for a scenario. All in all, what's not to like? For a first addition to the Steam Workshop, that's really, really solid. Not bad at all. Yes, I will recommend that. I can see why I got 5 stars. It absolutely deserves that. Thank you all very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If so, then be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment with your suggestions, and subscribe if you have not already. I, as always, will be seeing you guys next time.